if you want to lead a great life, there is one habit which you must implement, and I can't state how important that habit is. And it's reflection. It can help you with many problems which you might face or which you are currently facing, because the biggest problem which we have when it comes to facing difficult situations or facing habits which we don't want to do and we want to stop them is the fact that most of the time we aren't even aware of them. As the one thing. Or the second is that we aren't aware of what is causing them, because most of our habits, like the ones which are bad, are symptoms of like the main cause or main thing which actually causes us to do those habits which are symptoms of that cause, so of that root cause basically. And that root cause might be something you have experienced as a child, so it kind of like haunts you even till this day. It could be a certain emotion which evokes a certain coping mechanism, which is that bad habit which you don't want to be doing. And if you want to understand what is the main or the root cause of you doing those bad habits which you don't want to be doing, then reflection is the thing which you must implement. And it's a simple exercise. All you have to do, either you take a piece of paper, a diary or notepad or whatever, something like that, or you can use some kind of a device, so your phone, your tablet, your PC, but ideally, at least for me, I would prepare a paper. For me, I actually have like a proper notebook which I use to write down like how my day went and so on. But what reflection actually is an exercise which you can use, for example, questions, if you would like that sort of a technique. And by using questions, you will ask yourself them in a certain way, which will basically make you realize what causes those habits to occur, as well as how you can maybe get rid of them. Because if you ask yourself in a proper way, your brain will naturally come up with ideas as to how you can avoid doing those habits, or how you can completely like get them out of your daily routine. And so just from the beginning, you will take a piece of paper or your device, and you can do it in a simple way, but I don't think that will bring that many results. And that's basically, you will start writing how your day went, what you have done in the morning, during lunch, after lunch, in the evening, and so on. I have been doing that for 2 years almost, and it's not ideal. What you have to do to actually get the results which you want, I mean, it's still better to do at least that, because you are somewhat aware of the actions which you take throughout your days. But in that sense, I think it would be much better for you to maybe go through that exercise which I mentioned. So ask yourself certain questions and try answering them. So the one question could be, for example, if I were like the most disciplined machine, that I would do everything that I need without postponing it, without doing something else and so on. Basically, you will be like something that's not really possible in the real world. You would be a person who basically does everything that needs to be done, and someone who would do it like as best as he could possibly do it. So that's not really possible because we are humans. But imagine that person and ask yourself, how would his day look like as the person who is a disciplined machine? And so maybe you can write down from the morning how his day would look like. So he would wake up full of enthusiasm, full of drive. He would get up, make his bed, go brush his teeth, then go straight to work, even when he doesn't feel like it. He would complete his work, then he will go have a short break, which would be staring at his wall, because he knows that if he were to pick up his phone and start scrolling on social media, that would actually cause more problems for him, because then the task which he actually wants to do will feel much worse, since he has done an activity which is much more dopamine inducing. So in that sense, instead of scrolling on Instagram, he stares at his wall, and maybe he goes through thoughts which have accumulated throughout his first work block and so on. And you will continue creating that like ideal day, And once you finish, you can try an exercise, but I will mention that more in a future video, most likely. And you will visualize and do that visualization technique on daily basis. So basically you would visualize how you are that person, that you wake up, you go through those habits like nothing, even when you don't feel like it. So basically you would visualize yourself being that person. But moving on, that's not the point of this video. And so you can do that exercise by writing down questions and answering them. That was the one question which you can use. Another question could be more focused on certain habits which you have done throughout your day. So what you can do before you actually ask yourself that question is write down all the habits which you have done throughout your day, like all of them. So even that 10-second period when you picked up your phone and, I don't know, you have replied to a certain message, or the period of time when you have scrolled on Instagram or just scrolled on YouTube, because if you are watching this kind of a video, most likely you aren't really scrolling on Instagram, or at least on the short form content. And so write down all the habits which you have done throughout your day, and the ones which you don't want to have or do during your day, you can highlight them, or you don't have to do anything, just know which are the habits which you want to get rid of. Because if you don't know what is like the problem or something you want to improve, then you can't really improve it. So first of all, write down what you are doing throughout your day. If you locate all the habits which you want to get rid of, then you can write them down on a separate piece of paper and then analyze each one of those habits. And this is when the questions come into play. So you will ask yourself, how have I felt just before I started doing that habit? Or what were the emotions which has caused me to do that sort of a behavior? And you will answer that question. Then you can ask yourself, like, were you with people, or if you were alone when you were doing that not exercise but habit which you want to get rid of. Then you can ask yourself how you felt afterwards. And you can go through many questions like that. If you are interested, maybe you can find these sort of questions on the internet. And whilst you go through that exercise, by the way, we are still talking about reflection, that's all part of it. Whilst you go through that exercise, your brain will naturally come up with the reasons why you do those habits. Maybe if you ask yourself, like, what can I do to stop doing that habit? Your brain will probably come up with reasons, because if you can't state proper questions, you can't really get proper answers which you are looking for. So the main or the key concept during this exercise is to ask proper questions. And so that was one exercise which you can do, and it's called reflection. And there are many other like exercises which fall under the category of reflection, but I think this one is huge and you can implement it right away. Like, you can do that exercise which I mentioned when you imagine either your ideal self, but that's kind of like you don't really know who that or how you would look like as your ideal self. So instead of that, imagine like a person who has still discipline, a discipline which is unbreakable, and so he does or goes through all of his tasks without any problems, even when he doesn't feel like it. And so when you do that, you can literally create your ideal self, and you will have that checkpoint or that lighthouse which will create a direction which you can follow. And that's not all. Reflection is just overall a great exercise which you can use just to lead a great life. Because how can you lead a great life if you don't know how that life looks like? And you can't know how it looks like through other people, through extrinsic factors. You can only know it through your internal self. Because every person sees an ideal life in a different way. And for you, it's different than for me. And so in that sense, you have to do that exercise on your own. Either do that one which I mentioned with that disciplined person, or you can make or do an exercise which is solely focused on creating your ideal life. So write down what would your ideal day look like, that after that day you would feel accomplished, you would feel fulfilled, happy, energized, and so on. And You can find many exercises like that on the internet. Hopefully this video was valuable, hopefully you got my point across. If you like what I am talking about, you can check the first link in the description. And if you want to learn or watch something else from my channel, you can watch this video next.